Hello, and welcome to another edition of In Touch Safety, the workplace health and safety webinar series presented by Encompass Michigan, the statewide network of comprehensive human service providers working together to develop independence and achieve inclusive communities. Today's webinar is on finding and fixing hazards. This is the second in a two-part series, and our topic today will be job safety analysis. My name is Todd Culver, and I'm the President and CEO of Encompass Michigan. This material was prepared under a Consultation Education and Training, or SET, grant, awarded by the Michigan Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or MIOSHA. In Touch Safety is a training project developed and delivered in collaboration with MIOSHA, and we have a long-standing and valued partnership with the SET division. As we've discussed in previous episodes of this series, safety and health program is a proactive way to manage hazards in the workplace to prevent injuries and illnesses. And several program models are available for employers to follow that can lead to successful safety programs. We have covered in detail in a previous session OSHA's recommended practices for safety and health programs. There are excellent resources available through the National Safety Council, through ISO standards, as well as CARF accreditation standards. Irrespective of which model an organization chooses to utilize, all successful safety and health programs involve three key components: management leadership, worker participation, and a systematic approach to finding and fixing hazards. Through finding and fixing hazards, a safety program that's supportive of these objectives, which finding and fixing hazards are conditions that could lead to an accident resulting in an injury. They involve two components. The first is place, and the second is process. What I mean by place is the environment in which the work is conducted, and that it should be maintained free from any recognized hazards. What I mean by process is that the tasks involved in completing the work should be analyzed to assess risks and address them through elimination or mitigation of those hazards. Part 2 of this two-part series will focus on process, specifically conducting a job safety analysis, as well as maintaining a system of hazard assessment and mitigation. When we talk about a job safety analysis, sometimes referred to as a JSA, establishing proper job procedures is one of the benefits of conducting a job safety analysis and carefully studying and recording each step of a job, identifying existing or potential job hazards in both safety and health. We determine the best way to perform the job or to reduce or hopefully eliminate these hazards, and improved job methods can reduce costs resulting from employee absenteeism, workers' compensation, and in fact can often lead to increased productivity. When selecting jobs for analysis, a JSA can be performed for all jobs in the workplace, whether the task is special or non-routine, or routine, something that's done every day. To determine which jobs should be analyzed first, the best resource is to review your job injury and illness reports. And a JSA should be conducted first for jobs with the highest rates of injuries or illness. It's very important to involve employees. So once a job has been selected for analysis, discuss the procedure with the employee performing the job and explain its purpose, which is to prevent injury and promote a safer workplace. Involve the employee in all phases of the analysis, from reviewing each step of the job to potential hazards, and recommended solutions in this area is key because the best ideas often come from the individuals who are doing the work. There are many items to consider when conducting the JSA. And I'll pose a series of questions here that can be included as the process is developed and executed? Are the materials on the floor that could trip a worker? Is the lighting adequate? Are there any live electrical hazards at the job site? Are there any chemical, physical, biological, or radiation hazards associated with the job, or are they likely to develop? Are tools, including hand tools, machines, and equipment in need of any repair? And is there excessive noise in the work area, hindering worker communication or potentially causing hearing loss? Are job procedures known? Are they followed or are they modified by the worker as they perform the tasks? Are emergency exits clearly marked? Are trucks or motorized vehicles properly equipped with brakes, overhead guards, backup signals, horns, steering gear, and identification as necessary? Are all employees who are operating vehicles and equipment properly trained and authorized? Are employees wearing personal protective equipment for the jobs that they are performing? Additional items to consider can be, have any employees complained, perhaps of headaches, breathing problems, dizziness, or strong odors? And is the ventilation adequate, especially in confined or enclosed spaces? Are workstations and tools designed to prevent back and upper extremity injuries, those of the hand, wrist, and elbow? Are employees trained in the event of a fire or other emergency? That's a long list, but there are one of the supporting points is that there are many items to consider. It's a multifaceted approach to finding and fixing hazards, but it's specific to each job and, in fact, to each task involved in completing the job. What we do then, after considering all these items, is break it down. Nearly every job can be broken down into job tasks or steps. In the first part of the job safety analysis, list each step of the job in order of occurrence as you watch the employee performing the job. Be sure to record enough information to describe each job action, but do not make the breakdown too detailed. Later, afterwards, you can go over these job steps with the employee to ensure buy-in as well as provide assurance of accuracy. Next is to identify the hazards, both observable and potential. And again, we'll pose a series of questions here. Are there hazards that would require the use of personal protective equipment or clothing that are appropriate for this job? Are work positions, machinery, or hazardous operations adequately guarded? Are lockout procedures used for machinery deactivation as required? Is the worker perhaps wearing clothing or jewelry or have long hair that could get caught in the machinery or otherwise cause a hazard? And are there fixed objects that may cause injury, such as sharp edges, whether on tools or materials? Is the flow of work organized and at an appropriate pace? In other words, is the employee required to make movements that are far too rapid, thereby elevating the chance for injury or perhaps repetitive strain? Can the employee get caught in or between moving parts? Can the employee be injured by reaching over moving machinery parts or materials? Is the employee at any time in an off-balance position? And is the employee required to make movements that could lead to or cause hand or foot injuries or strain from lifting, such as the hazards associated with repetitive motions? Can the employee be struck by an object or lean against or strike a machine part? Can the employee fall from one level to another? Can the employee be injured from lifting or pulling objects or perhaps from carrying heavy objects or materials? And do environmental hazards such as dust, chemicals, radiation, welding rays, heat, or excessive noise result from the performance of the job? Once the general questions have been posed and the tasks have been broken down and questions have been asked to identify hazards, the next step is to recommend safe procedures and protection. So after listing each hazard, again, whether observable or potential, and reviewing them with the employee performing the job, determine whether the job could be performed in another way to eliminate those hazards, such as combining certain steps, altering the sequence, or whether safety equipment or other precautions are needed to control the hazards. And a helpful technique in this regard can be recording the employee performing his or her job on video and analyzing the job procedures together. If safer and better job steps can be used, list each new step, such as describing a new method for disposing of material. List exactly what the worker needs to know to perform the job using a new method. And in this instance, it's important to avoid general statements about the procedures, such as be careful or pay attention. Be as specific as you can in your recommendations. You may wish to set up a training program using the job safety analysis to retrain employees in new procedures, especially if they're working with either toxic substances or in hazardous situations. And it's important to remember that some MIOSHA standards require that formal training programs be established for employees, such as the control of hazardous energy or lockout tagout. If no new procedure can be developed, determine whether any physical changes, such as redesigning the equipment or perhaps selecting a different tool, adding guarding to the machinery, or using personal protective equipment or ventilation, could eliminate or reduce the danger. If hazards are still present, trying to reduce the necessity for performing the job or the frequency of performing it is another item to consider. And again, go over these recommendations with all employees performing the job. Remember that their ideas and proposed recommendations are valuable, and be sure that they understand what they're required to do and the reasons for any changes that result in job procedures. The JSA is a tool that should be revised on an ongoing basis. While job safety analysis can reduce accidents and injuries, it's only effective if it's reviewed and updated periodically. If an illness or injury occurs on a specific job, or even following a near miss, the job safety analysis should then be reviewed to determine whether changes are needed in the job procedure. Anytime a job hazard analysis is revised, training on the new job methods, procedures, or protective measures should be provided to all employees affected by the changes. And of course, remember that a job safety analysis can also be used to effectively train new employees on the steps to conduct the job, as well as any associated hazards. What you see on the screen now is a template for a job safety analysis training guide, allowing the individual completing the training guide to list their title, the title of the individual conducting the work, the equipment involved, the department where it's located, who the analysis was conducted by, and an approval notation that this has been through a process to ensure accuracy. It should be dated and indicated whether or not the JSA is new or if it's being revised. Job steps can then be listed, broken down into basic steps, what's done first, what's done next until completion. Potential hazards are then identified. What accidents could happen to the employee doing the job? And you get those answers by observing, discussing it with the operator, reviewing illness and injury records, and therefore recalling past accidents. And really, it's a combination of all three. And in the final column here, that's where recommended safe job procedures are listed, and that's for each potential accident or hazard. We ask ourselves what safeguards should be provided for the employee, how the employee should do that step of the job to avoid that potential accident, and what they should do or not do, again, to avoid trouble. The next template that you see is a blank form for a job safety analysis. This is available to you through the MIOSHA resource on conducting a job safety analysis. And a sample is now shown, again, where job title, equipment, department is listed, the supervisor of the operation, approval levels, and by whom the analysis was conducted. Again, date each JSA, indicate whether it's new or revised, and then break it down into each step of each job, the potential hazard associated with that step, and recommended safe job procedures for each step. Job safety analysis is also an integral part of an organization's safety and health program. It involves finding and fixing hazards. And as we've discussed, safety and health programs can help businesses prevent workplace injuries and illnesses, improve regulatory and legal compliance, reduce your costs, including significant reductions in workers' comp premiums. It engages workers, enhances social responsibility goals, and increases productivity and efficiency, both in overall business operations and service delivery. In conclusion, we need to continuously, on an ongoing basis, consider how safety is woven into the fabric of our organization's culture. And within that, those three components of leadership, participation, and incorporating a systematic approach to finding and fixing hazards. Remember to address both place through worksite inspections, which we covered in part 1 of this series, making sure to note corrective action through that process, and process or job safety analysis. Please be careful out there. Thank you very much for joining us for the second in this 2-part series. Encompass Michigan remains committed to being a trusted resource for getting you connected and keeping you informed. The resources used in development of part 2 of this series are cited here. The MIOSHA publication SP32 on job safety analysis is the source for the templates that were displayed during the course of this training. And again, thank you for joining us.